On the broadcast tonight, a majority of Kenyans, according to a survey by Twaweza, want the country to withdraw the Kenya Defence Forces from Somalia after almost 5 years since the incursion in 2010. We will seek to hear your views on the broadcast on this particular topic. I am Ben Kitili at the KTN News Center. Our sign language interpreter, the bottom end of your screen, is Meresha Owiti. KTN Prime begins now. The top stories tonight.
Ukisikia kwamba mapesa mabilioni imepotea hapa Kilifi, serikali ya Kilifi lazima iwajibike.
Shilingi bilioni 5 zingetosha kuwalisha watu wote wa Kilifi.
Jubilee allies descend on Kilifi governor with 5 billion shillings graft allegations.
This food we suspect must have stayed in NCPB stores for long and it is damaged.
Too rotten, too late. Government declares Samburu relief food unfit for human consumption.
The drought will persist into 2017.
Brace yourself for a long drought, government warns as it releases 5 billion to fight hunger. And what to do when your baby is born too early and too small. Welcome to the broadcasts. Why are you silent on this one? As the question Deputy President William Ruto and his newfound allies in the Kenyan coast are asking court leaders concerning corruption allegations in the county of Kilifi. Ruto says the court leaders have styled themselves as whistleblowers in every other case, but have gone suddenly silent on claims of tens of millions stolen from Kilifi County government. Ruto spoke as residents of Mtwapa held protest demanding answers on the loss of 51 million Kenya shillings. KTN News Coast reporter Francis Ontomo begins our coverage tonight.
This was Mtwapa town Thursday morning when residents came out to protest over the alleged missing millions in the county coffers of Kilifi. Outrage, anger was palpable. The residents demanding answers as to how the syndicate now involving senior county officials will sneak through unabated. Some 51 million shillings was allegedly siphoned from the county government's account at the CBK into some 6 private accounts of companies based in Nairobi. And the figure in question could be much more.
Jana ilipofika tunaambiwa ni bilioni 1.8 billion imepotea. Sisi tunataka kujua hii 1.8 billion imepata miguu imeenda wapi? Kwani pesa inamea miguu?
Wengine hatuna kazi. Ganze ndio hivyo. Watu wana shida ya njaa, wanyama wanakufa.
And today the fresh onslaught was captained by none other than the Deputy President William Ruto. The DP is challenging whistleblowers from the other side of the political divide to say something on this one. Ruto, flanked by Jubilee's new allies in the coast, is asking Governor Amason Kingi to take responsibility and explain to Kenyans what is going on.
Mkisikia kwamba mapesa mabilioni imepotea hapa Kilifi, serikali ya Kilifi lazima iwajibike. Kuhakikisha kwamba inafanya kazi ile ilipatiwa na wananchi na sio kufuja pesa ya wananchi.
10 county officials have since been suspended pending investigations. This as it emerges that the said transactions are alleged to have been conducted between 6 and 7 p.m. on September the 29th to 3rd October, according to the County Secretary Dr. Owen Bayer. The 6 private companies on the spot include Makegra Supplies, Zohali Supplies, Killing Investment, Leadership Edge Associates, and Daima One Enterprise.
Kuna kampuni zaidi ya 3 ama 4 wenyewe wanajulikana. Mtu alifanya kazi ya milioni 3 Ganze, amelipwa mara 10, yani milioni 30. Hiyo kampuni moja. Wenyewe wanajulikana.
Reports say a week after the detection, Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi met CBK officials to block impending transactions. Kingi has since acknowledged loss of colossal amounts of money and even pledged to crack the whip on officers involved.
Tunajua iliingia katika akaunti gani, tunajua iliingia katika benki gani, tunajua jina la ile kampuni, tunajua directors wa ile kampuni, na ukienda pale benki utaambua signatory wa ile akaunti ni nani. Kwa hivyo ni kitu ambacho ushahidi uko bayana. Kile tu tunasema kwamba ni wale ambao walihusika wasipatiwe muda wa kuficha zaidi hii pesa.
This latest scam now pointing to what appears an inside job that has the county officials and CBK. Implicated officers have blamed crooks whom they say stole their passwords, occasioning the infiltration. Amidst the storm, however, the Banking Fraud Investigations Department, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission are yet to give word on the matter. This despite handling the matter for close to 1 month.
Shirika la EACC, la CID, shirika yale mengine ya DPP, wote wahakikishe ya kwamba pesa ya watu wa Kilifi walioiba washikwe na wafungwe.
The allegations at the Kilifi County government now adding onto a growing list of graft scandals eating into the Kenyan society. Kingi has promised to issue a comprehensive statement Friday. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Kilifi.
Let's now go to another story that has a big impact across the country, but especially in the county of Kilifi still. Now, the government has warned Kenyans to brace themselves for a long and painful drought that is expected to continue for the next 1 year until October 2017. One person has been confirmed dead, while more than 1.5 million Kenyans are facing starvation and in dire need of relief food. Michelle Ngele has the details.
In affected areas, vegetation remains scarce. Surface waters have all but run dry. It is the latest round of starvation to rock the country. The government says 1.5 million people are in dire need of food. The Kenya Red Cross says the number is likely to rise to 2.5 million by April 2017. But government agencies say the drought will continue for the next 1 year till October 2017.
The drought will persist into 2017, and the effects will go all the way to around September, October. What you need to understand is that once the drought has been there and the effects are there, we must wait for the next long rains for the situation to normalize.
For purposes of intervention, the government has divided the situation into 3 levels. So far, only Kilifi County has been classified as emergency. 1 person has been confirmed dead in the area. Alarm areas include Garissa, Kwale, Lamu and Marsabit, while alert levels include Kajiado, Laikipia, West Pokot, Isiolo, Makueni, Mandera, Meru North, Narok, Samburu, Taita Taveta, Turkana and Wajir.
The key problem here is management of water. It also explains the resurgent interest in dams, the issue of diverting water during some seasons like the Mulanga tunneling, the Etare. Management of water, I would want to insist, will not create deserts anywhere. Instead, it will create a situation where our natural resources of water are managed for sustainable well-being of the citizens.
As the government prepares to give food relief and ensure no Kenyan dies of hunger, it must also put in place mechanisms to guarantee that relief food reaches the intended people. A report by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in 2014 showed that relief food supplies were diverted for commercial purposes by government agencies involved in the distribution.
Resources meant for relief. Let me put it this way. The resources provided by NGOs, county governments, are for families in need. Even in these drought-stricken areas, the MCA is not in need. The chief is not in need. The local businessman is not in need. The county security committees have been told to take charge. And any person benefiting from relief food who does not deserve it will be treated and prosecuted like a thief.
In the wake of mitigation efforts, the country continues to feel the brunt of the drought. Schools in affected areas are on the verge of closure. Meanwhile, cattle herders in drought-hit areas may ultimately escalate tension as they fight over scarce water resources to ensure their own survival and that of their livestock. Michelle Ngele, KTN News.
In a rather strange twist to the tale of drought and hunger, relief food purchased by the Samburu County government for distribution to famine-stricken areas has been declared unfit for human consumption. According to the governor, the government chemist announced that the 8,000 bags of maize bought from the National Cereals and Produce Board were all unfit for human consumption. The NCPB Maralal Depot manager, Kipngetich Mutai, however, denied the claims, saying they have not received any official communication about the government chemist results. According to the National Drought Management Authority, more than 54,000 residents from Samburu East and North were facing severe hunger, with the number increasing by the day.
On issues of nutrition and under preparedness, I think we are doing this food we suspect must have stayed in NCPB stores for long, and it is damaged. We have to insist that NCPB provides us with another batch of maize. They have just brought in about 5,000 bags as we speak. They have guaranteed that by this weekend we may have a total consignment here, and we've equally subjected that food to the tests, and hopefully it will meet minimum standards for human consumption. And it's quite unfortunate, and we hope going forward that NCPB should invest in providing quality products.
The maize that we have is to the standard. I can only tell you one thing, that I have not gotten any official communication about the quality of food. So maybe if it comes to other issues, maybe I need to revise to the MD.
In the county of Kitili, a man believed to be the owner of the building that collapsed last week has been charged with 8 counts of manslaughter. Jeremiah Matoki was jointly charged with his structural engineer, Jeff Ocharo, of unlawfully and negligently causing the death of 8 people. They should deny the charges before the Kitili High Court and were released on a bond of 2 million shillings each. Matoki was charged on another count of employing a person who is not registered by the Engineers Board of Kenya.
And each of the accused is granted bond of Kenya shillings of 2 million with one surety of similar amount or a cash bill of 500,000. Mentioned 30th November, and defense to be supplied with copies of witness statements and documentary exhibits. Prosecution which is to rely on the case.
All right, let's now take a look at a new report released today by research firm Toreza East Africa that shows that a majority of Kenyans would like the Kenya Defense Forces to be withdrawn from inside Somalia. Let's take a look at those numbers that we have. 70% of Kenyans, according to that report by Toreza East Africa, say that the Kenya Defense Forces should leave Somalia. That is, of course, on that discussion about the endgame Somalia. Kenyan Defense Forces have been in Somalia since 2011. Now, 53% say that the KDF should be deployed at border points to prevent the country, to prevent terrorists or militants from gaining entry into the country. Remember, the Kenya-Somalia border has been pretty porous with many attacks on Kenya's soil since 2011. 26%, according to Toreza East Africa, say that the Kenya Defense Forces war on Al-Shabaab want KDF rather to remain in Somalia. Remember, KDF are part of the African mission in Somalia. Very paltry figure, 26% there. Now, the reason why young Kenyans want to join radical groups, according to this research by Toreza East Africa, 56% say it is because of lack of employment, 20% say it is poor governance, and 4% say it is because of religious motivations, and 3% give it to internet stroke social media. That is the reasons given by Kenyans, according to this research, why Kenyans join the Al-Shabaab or any other militant groups. One of those numbers on our big question discussion, we're asking, do you support the finding by that report that youth join Al-Shabaab for lack of employment? It is a very precarious and very important conversation for Kenyans. Tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no opinion to our studio line 22155. Tell us what you think as well on Twitter on hashtag KTN Prime. Tweet me at Ben_Kitili. You can tweet us at KTN News and at KTN Prime. Switch gears, shall we? In the Tana River County Assembly this morning adjourned to discuss the potential impact of the controversial Muranga County Water Collector Tunnel on the lives of Tana River residents. It was a heated debate that lasted for almost 2 hours. Take a look.
I think Tana River County, over 400 people, Mr. Speaker, living in this county, our life will depend totally in this river tunnel, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if anybody anywhere to interfere with flow of this river, Mr. Speaker, we shall totally perish, Mr. Speaker.
Mwezi 6-7 iliyopita, Mheshimiwa Spika, tulikuwa na kiangazi kikubwa sana katika taifa la Kenya, lakini sehemu ambayo kiangazi hiyo imeathiri pakubwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kaunti ya Tana River. Tumepoteza mifugo, tukapoteza mimea sababu ya uhaba ya mvua ambayo imejiri katika miezi 7 zilizopita.
We have 4 major irrigation schemes in Tana River and Garissa County. What were the objectives? What were the agendas for the national government to fund these irrigation schemes? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, was to enhance food security. Mr. Speaker, creation of jobs. But Mr. Speaker, today you are coming up with a proposal of killing all irrigation schemes.
Kenyans have all right to be consulted on all major and minor projects, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the country. And people of Tana River County, Mr. Speaker, sir, are Kenyans.
Katiba ya Kenya imesema ya kwamba kama kuna haki yoyote ambayo itaenda kudhulumu haki ya mtu mwingine, si haki tena. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama haki ya wakaaji ya Tana River inadhulumiwa, hatuwezi kubali haki ya wengine isonge ikiwa yetu inadhulumiwa, Mheshimiwa Spika.
And that is our basis of our big question discussion. We're asking, do you support the finding that youth join Al-Shabaab for lack of employment? Keep sending those texts and tweets.
Best content.
Welcome back. This is KTN Prime. With only 9 months to the August 2017 polls, the ruling Jubilee coalition and the opposition CORD are locked in a bitter dispute regarding the involvement of the outgoing Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commissioners in preparations for next year's elections. Tonight on Spotlight 2017, KTN News reporter Moremi Mwangi delves into the IEBC workload and interrogates the feasibility of IEBC conducting party primaries for the Jubilee Party and also making adequate preparations for the 2017 general election.
It was the close to 1 month of public demonstrations against the commissioners of the electoral agency, IEBC, that kick-started the long process to the enactment of the Election Laws Amendment Act in September. 2 months later, a bitter dispute has erupted between the ruling Jubilee government and the opposition CORD over some grey areas in the recently enacted law, which seemingly allow the outgoing IEBC commissioners to continue overseeing preparations for the 2017 general election before the entry of their successors.
Some of the retired commissioners have been holding informal meetings with the Deputy President and the Cabinet Secretary responsible for ICT to block the full and comprehensive implementation of the Election Laws Amendment Act of 2016.
The biggest problem these days they're facing is one William Ruto. You know, in the morning they drink William Ruto, at night they dream William Ruto. I am telling IEBC on their face, the Secretariat and the current commissioners, that you should not be intimidated by court.
IEBC recently recruited 6 firms to compete for a tender to audit the voters' register, a move which court says breaches the electoral law. But Jack Tumwa, a former commissioner at the defunct Election Commission of Kenya, argues that it is illogical to blame the IEBC, as the Joint Parliamentary Select Committee never indicated whose role it was to vet and shortlist the audit firm.
IEBC should stall every exercise that is currently being undertaken in regard to the Elections Laws Amendment Act 2016 until the new commissioners have been duly appointed.
So IEBC is independent. And political parties, including Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, call them, they cannot purport to influence any decision of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission.
But with court demanding for the procurement of tamper-proof 2017 elections technology from certified companies of impeccable international reputation, analysts argue the IEBC could be facing its most trying moment with tight timelines to beat. A situation which observers say could be complicated by a recent request by the Jubilee Party for the IEBC to oversee its party primaries, which have to be concluded by May next year.
The earliest you should be doing an election in this country, if you go by the methodology, methodical, systemic schedule, you'll be talking at the end of 2017, early 2018.
The people of Kenya say the elections will be held on the second Tuesday of every 5th year. So without amending the hard constitution, and you actually will need a referendum to amend that particular article in the constitution. You cannot change the date of the elections.
But a recent demand by the Jubilee Party for Treasury to fund the party primaries could throw the IEBC into a spin, as it is already demanding for 40 billion shillings for the 2017 elections. Pundits argue the Jubilee Party has some explaining to do on why Treasury should fund its primaries when the audited accounts of the defunct TNA and URP show that the two parties transferred a total of 283 million to the Jubilee Party, money largely earned from the political party's fund, which is also financed by the Treasury.
IEBC must be corrected first, and it must focus on its core mandate of supervising the general elections. Political parties must deal with their own agenda.
It will be a budget almost similar to the budget of holding an election, because we are doing party primaries across the country. We will require the same amount of polling agents, we will require the same amount of returning officers.
In all the democracies, do your own research. Political parties' primaries are funded by a specific budget line from the exchequer, from the taxpayers' kitty.
As the 5 interviewees for IEBC chair prepare to meet the selection panel starting Monday next week, a key question will inescapably be how they intend to redeem the image of the IEBC in the wake of the growing suspicion between the country's 2 main political camps. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Good evening and thank you for keeping it KTN News. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Cooperative Bank of Kenya has registered a 22% jump in its Q3 profit after tax for the period ending September of 2016. The 10.5 billion shillings posted by the bank was majorly driven by the bank's ambitious transformational strategy. Coop Bank is among the Tier 1 banks to post its numbers after Kenya Commercial Bank and Equity Bank. The bank has attributed the positive performance to prudent cost containment as well as efficient use of its technology platforms. Speaking at an investor briefing earlier, the group CEO, Gideon Muriuki, lauded the performance, noting the bank was keen on growing customer loans by use of alternative delivery channels. Despite the new law capping interest rates, the bank further saw a surge in customer net loans, which rose 6.9%. Another key area the bank will be eyeing moving forward is growth in the deposits, which remained low, growing at 1.2% compared to last quarter.
Shareholder funds have grown by 20%. This is very good for us because we have a shareholder base sufficient to literally double the size of the business we are doing in terms of deposit base. And so in terms of capitalization, the strategy that we have had of retention of profits over the years, it has worked well for us. And so capital raising is not on our radar at this moment in time. We have sufficient capital.
Police in Nakuru have arrested 8 people and impounded 8 vehicles carrying 956 gas cylinders, allegedly containing illegal LPG with various brand names. The vehicles, among them 2 lorries, were reportedly loaded with to capacity, though it remains unclear where the final destination for the cylinders was. The arrests come just days after oil and gas industry operators raised a red flag over the continued escalation of malpractices in the liquefied petroleum gas business. The players say 7 out of 10 cylinders in the market are sourced from illegal fillers, a trend that is causing massive unease in the industry.
Selling petroleum gas at the industrial area here in Nakuru without a license. Upon that information, our officers managed to get there and were able to find 8 vehicles with gas already filled and others not filled.
French President Francois Hollande has stepped up warnings to the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump about the risks of quitting a 2015 global plan to combat climate change. French President Francois Hollande reiterated on Wednesday that the Climate Change Paris Pact is irreversible. French President Francois Hollande has made it crystal clear to the United States President-elect Donald Trump that there are consequences of quitting the 2015 global plan to combat climate change. Speaking in Morocco, Hollande warned that now was not the time to back out of the pact.
The awareness is there about the commitments of one and another to speak clearly the commitments of President Donald Trump. When I say it is irreversible, it's not like you can just stop it.
The Paris deal was agreed by almost 200 governments last year after the 2 decades of negotiations. The accord formally entered into force on November 4th this year after a record swift ratification. But American President-elect Donald Trump has called climate change a hoax and said he would rip up the Paris deal, halt any U.S. taxpayer funds for UN global warming programs, and revive the U.S. coal sector.
In Paris, 100 billion were announced by all the participants and the actors, the will to achieve this amount. As far as France is concerned, it will mobilize $5 billion, and we've done more than our share.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry had hoped his presence at a Marrakesh conference to decide on the finer points of a historic agreement to stave off climate change would be a victory lap. Instead, he found himself having to address the uncertainty created by the election of Trump and what his presidency might mean for the U.S. commitment to the 2015 Paris Agreement to cut global greenhouse gas emissions. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN News. Official works at the Two Rivers Mall, presumably the largest mall in Eastern Central Africa, is nearly complete, and official opening is set for February of 2017. The mall, with gross lettable area of 67,000 square meters of retail space, comprising 200 shops, is targeting the rising middle class and growth of expatriates across the East African region. The mall on opening will house over 18 food and beverage outlets, 9 banks, 38 fashion and apparel stores, and 13 health and beauty stores. Kenya is said to have the highest number of shopping and leisure malls across sub-Saharan Africa, and the increase in the number of malls presents an uncertain future for these businesses. And now look at the markets that I will leave you with. But remember, for more business, you can log on to our site, ktnnews.com. My name is Joy Doreen Bira.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and let's take a look at the sports tonight. In his first season abroad, Harambee Stars striker Michael Olunga has attracted interest from several clubs across Europe after bagging 12 goals for the Djurgårdens. Olunga has also been nominated for the best new player in 2016 in the Swedish top flight league. Michael Olunga in blistering form for Djurgårdens IF. In motorsports, the Kenya National Rally Championship 2 wheel drive driver Alex Lairangi is optimistic that the Guru Nanak Rally, slated to take place next weekend in Naivasha, will bring good tidings. As he gears up for a major victory next season, Lairangi won the Safari Rally and the Eldoret outings this year, and his quest is to star in the coming season.
The season has been very nice, though we didn't start so well because the first KNRC in Kajiado, we didn't manage to finish. We had a mechanical issue and we had to withdraw. But so far, we are doing so well because at least in this season we've won 2 events. We've won the last Eldoret Rally and we won in Safari Rally. So at least it's been a good season because we are always on the podium. The next season I'll still be rallying in 2-wheel drive because of budget issues. And we are looking at championship next year. Next year we'll be chasing the championship. I would encourage more people to come and join in rallying, and companies out there come sponsor us. We're really struggling, especially managing the budgets of rallying.
FC Leopards former coach that is, Ivan Minach, has been awarded 2.4 million shillings by the newly formed Football Kenya Federation, FKF's arbitration tribunal for unlawful termination. The Dutch had taken his case to the tribunal after being released by the former league giants, and in a historic ruling, the tribunal observed that the coach was unfairly dismissed by Ingwe. According to the evidence presented, it was therefore ruled that he be paid a 6-month salary, which translated to 2.4 million Kenya shillings. So tonight we are reporting about the findings of a study by research firm Twaweza, which indicated that a majority of Kenyans want Kenya to withdraw the Kenya Defense Forces from Somalia. They also found out that 56% of Kenyans think that the main reason Kenyans joined the Al-Shabaab or any other militant group was because of lack of employment. On our big question tonight, we did ask you, do you support that particular finding that youth join Al-Shabaab for lack of employment? Kenneth Kinoti says yes, this is because many youth are jobless and desperate. Gidua Wakoine says absolutely not. Most of us are not employed and we can't join illegal groups. Another one here from Collins Kenyanya, who says jobs ziko but no vacancies. People overstay in offices till 70 years. Nathan Lagat says not employment, kuingia ugaidi, hiyo si uzuri. Everything is not about money. And lastly, one here from Brian Yakwada, who says on Twitter, yes, if anything, I can't envisage what else can prompt anyone to join a terror-engineered front. Final one, Thomas Moniki says youth can draw to join such groups, gamble, crime, etc. by lack of jobs because their future looks pretty bleak. Thanks for your texts and tweets. So we leave it on the program tonight. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from Nairobi. Up next is Jeff Koinange Live. Don't go too far.